Got it.
There we go. Okay, hello, welcome to episode 432 of the Self-Help Podcast with me, Edward Lamb, and my good pal, Sean Orford. How are you, Sean?
I'm amazing. How are you?
I'm good, man. How's tricks, mate? You right?
Yeah, all right, like, yeah. No, I'm good. I'm good. The world is as mad as ever. And I keep thinking things are going to get better. And then I keep reading on the news about cases going up again. I think, oh my God, we need a break from this kind of destructive energy around us. We need some positivity.
We do. Yeah. Well, we're talking a bit about that today, aren't we? We're talking about...
Well, it's your role in life. You're Mr. Positive.
Well, yeah, I'm not entirely positive. Sometimes I lash out in anger online when things get too much for me. But generally, yeah, most people are when you meet them, aren't they? Nice, happy, positive people that just want to get by and enjoy their lives.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll talk about that and the role of community within that today. That's what the podcast is all about.
Yeah.
Because like it or not, we are going to be living a bit more locally, and we're going to have to kind of rekindle that community spirit, regardless. In the head.
And we need to.
We do.
So how about you bring the world up to date with what you've been doing, which has been a really good community project.
Okay, yeah, well, that's what I've been up to. Yeah, I've been a bit stressed isn't the word, but I've been engaged. All my energy and time has been put into running an event on Sunday, which took place called the Summer Cycle, the Leave a Hume Summer Cycle, which was a free family event where you show up. You can walk. You could have walked it if you wanted, but it was you bring your bikes along and explore these kind of hidden private tracts of some farmland bang in the middle of the world, which we've done. So it's for the second time now, and it was great. So we had a bit of rain in the afternoon, which took us by surprise because it was saying it was going to be dry all week.
Yeah.
But it was fantastic. I'll link to some press coverage we've had. But I think we had 400 or 500 people come through, and some bike mechanics there fixed up loads of bikes, and loads of kids with smiles on their faces, and people having teas and coffees and cakes and food. So yeah, all good.
And you need to put up that picture of your grandmother Beryl on the back of your bike, which is an absolute classic. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
How old is she now?
She's 92. Is
92
my grandma
on the back of your bike?
Yeah. So
amazing.
She arrived at the kind of Brimstage Hall, and it's probably about a mile almost to where the festival site was, as we called it. And it was quite a gravelly and by that point muddy track, which I mean, she would have struggled to walk that far. She's a very energetic 92-year-old.
She is, yeah.
It was obviously no cars allowed on site. So I had just a vehicle, my electric cargo bike, and she just about managed to get on the back, sit on the back, and then off we resumed into the countryside. So yeah. Amazing. Yeah, the power of the bicycle. But I mean, I'll talk more about the event as we go along. But what are your thoughts, Sean, on community living and its kind of importance in the world of like good mental health?
It bothers me a lot, actually, that in my lifetime, we've gone from big extended families that were part of big communities, and we've kind of shrunk down to these nuclear units with, 2 adults and 2 children, that kind of thing. And we've broken down. We don't interact with the people next door. When I was a kid, people used to leave their door open so that the person next door could come and make a bowl of sugar if they needed, and they'd return it. But there was no need to lock things up. And now we're all kind of insulated and separated. And that bothers me a lot. And I think that the whole COVID thing has magnified that hugely as people have started to withdraw. And withdraw not just from their kind of working groups, but their family groups and their friendship groups. And I'm seeing lots of dislocation, and that need that I see that we have to rebuild community. And one of the things that I have to heap praise on your head for is that the thing that you did at the weekend was a massive example of community, of people coming together with a common spirit and a common mind, which is what community is. It's commonality, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess it is.
And people coming together, supporting each other, having fun, and we're not doing it enough. And COVID has made me realize how much we're not doing it enough and how much we need to.
Yeah. It was cool on Sunday. I mean, so there were a few kind of activities on that we put on, so people arrived. We raised £1,000 for Clare House Hospice, by the way, the children's hospice.
Brilliant. I must make a contribution. I haven't made a contribution yet. Is the page still open?
Well, it was actually for when people arrived. We charged for people that arrived. Well, for parking, really. It was a donation for people that arrived by car, because part of my evil vendetta against cars is that parking should never be free. I don't care where you are, hospitals, anything. I'm that kind of, like, parking shouldn't be free because it's not free. So yeah, we charge for parking, but loads of people arrived on bikes from Bevington and Spittal, because I'd kind of pleaded with people to do that if they could, so there'd be enough space for those that did need to drive from further afield. And loads of people donated anyway. So yeah, over £1,000.
Brilliant.
All in once it was tallied. So it was beautiful.
Love it.
And then once they were up there was kind of a scavenger hunt for kids to do. There was amateur dramatics. We had quite a few volunteers get stuck in with that, and there was
what kind of amateur dramatics?
There were two students that one of the organisations that I know, another community interest company called Wirral Unplugged. I'll link to them in the links. But yeah, so it was a short play about the kind of the history of the bicycle relating to kind of women's rights, kind of late 19th century, early 20th century.
So was that because they couldn't ride bikes because they had skirts? What was the?
No, I mean they could. So I'll link to some history about it. But the bicycle was quite an important machine and tool in the kind of emancipation of women. Kind of it gave them freedom to roam. Oh. So the two young students, two students gave a short play about that, and it was aimed at kids there. So they kind of gathered kids around and told this little story about women and bicycles. So it's awesome.
Wow, maybe.
Yeah, there is. I think someone was filming it, so I might be able to link to a film at some point. And we had some music, and then there were loads of people selling, stalls selling tea and coffee and ice cream, and one last person that came is our friend Steve Shotton from Rhythm Reaction.
Oh well, yeah.
So I invited Steve along, and paid him obviously to do some drum classes for kids and adults.
Brilliant.
So it was awesome. It was really cool. And it just, I was kind of wandering around. Luckily, we had loads of volunteers that were taking care of the logistics and signing people in, and I was able to just kind of walk around and just appreciate the vibe and the atmosphere. And it was cool just seeing people together. And there are a lot of events around on all the time, every weekend, that kind of allow people to congregate in one form or another. So we know there is a lot of stuff going on, but
how do people know about that?
Well, I don't know. People do stuff. There tends to be a financial cost, doesn't there, to attending a lot of things, whether it be a soft play center or I don't know, a yoga class, that kind of thing. Our event was free, thankfully, but I don't know. You shouldn't have to pay always, should you, to see your mates and have a catch up?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, but the thing about community is, in a community, you were a community. You had that commonality. You didn't pay to be together. You were just together. And you saw it a bit. That there was a phase when we were having street parties, related to royal things or whatever, and people don't. And that happened for a while. But where the whole street was closed and they had tables in the street and people were sharing food and stuff like that. And I would imagine that maybe 200-300 years ago, people would be doing that quite naturally. And we don't do that. We have to make arrangements to be with other people. Will you come to the gym with me next Wednesday? rather
Yeah.
than just going and playing and doing and being.
Yeah.
You know.
Are you clear 3 weeks on Sunday? Or I can do anything between 12:48 and 3:46. I'm clear.
Oh no, sorry, I've got to go to the dentist. Then I can possibly. Yeah.
You've written a blog about this, obviously, and you've kind of got 5 or 6 points about what community is. So should we run through those points and we'll see who's if they feel they're kind of lacking it or whether change can be made.
Yeah.
Because the first point is about safety. So is community ultimately about feeling safe, would you say?
Yeah. If your street is a community, you know that everyone's looking out for everybody else. Yeah. If your family is a community, or if your town or village is a community, you know we're looking out for each other. In our road here, as I look out the window, I can see Bill's front door, and Bill is our community watch because Bill knows what goes on in this lane. He's got the twitching curtain, but he knows everybody and everything that's going on. Yeah, which is actually really fabulous. It's not him being nosy; it's him caring about the community.
Yeah.
And there are a few people like that up and down. And in a sense, they were turning an empty plot across the road into an allotment, and loads of people in the street turned out to help them do it. So the guys next door who've got a market garden came up with their tractors and they ploughed the land and stuff so they could do this big allotment. You know, so there is quite a lot of community in this street when it's motivated, and you saw it when people were going out and doing the clapping for the NHS stuff. You know, and the street turned out and did do it. You know, it was good. It was good. That was lovely. But it's like the thing about when you live in a community, you know that you're safe. I mean, if someone was in the process of breaking into a house across the road, I'd go and deal with it because it's what you do. And you have that sense when you live in a place where people do look after each other, you know that you're okay. I mean, where you live in that little kind of horseshoe of houses. Does everybody there know each other and look after each other?
Yeah, we know each other very well. And there's, Dos over the way keeps a copy of everyone's key in case, or when someone forgets it or gets locked out. Yeah, I mean, I came home today and there were 3 golf balls on our grass in the front. And I know that that's from the people 2 doors round because they've seen that William is getting into golf and he's started, practicing his swing and stuff. So when they take their dog for a walk on the golf course just across the way, they look for golf balls in the green, in the rough. Sorry, and they drop them off when they get back. So Will can stuff his golf bag full of golf balls.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Now you take me back to my childhood because in Richmond Park there was a golf course, and we'd come off the council estate and go for a walk around, and we would find balls, and they'd been abandoned in the rough. People lost them, and we'd find them, and then we'd sell them to people in the council estate.
Love it. So yeah, we all know each other really well, and and part of my obsession really which started with trying to make cycling a little bit safer where I live has just led me on this mad quest to think about how we live and how our houses are, like housing estates are designed, and whether they kind of enable people to get to know each other, or whether it's all about parking your car on your drive as close to the front door as you can and quickly getting in before anyone notices. Which sometimes I come back and I can see that there's someone chatting and maybe I'm not feeling in the mood for having a chat or something like that, but you have to, because your front door, you have to walk past them. So you end up having a chat and you end up really enjoying it, and catching up on all sorts of stuff. So, we're building houses the wrong way. We kind of, our high streets and our little town centers are all focused around, letting people park far too easily rather than giving space for community activity for people to kind of get to know each other. And there's the noise as well. I was having a coffee with someone just in Bevington today along the road to talk about another project, and sitting outside because it's really warm at the moment still, and you just can't, you can't hear yourself think just with all the traffic whooshing by, and it's just crackers. Like, It's mad.
Do you think that those main streets in towns like that should be pedestrianised so that people are walking and shopping and doing stuff?
Yeah, where possible, they certainly should. Yeah, I mean, obviously, buses or cars and people will need to get through in some way. So, if you drop the speed limit to 20 miles an hour in places where there's going to be a lot of people, yeah, you can decrease the noise a lot. So, yeah, we've just got to tame the motor car. Really, that it's an object of desire, isn't it? And for a lot of people, and it was for me as well. So I can see why people enjoy them so much, but they're trashing the planet, and they're just ruining any sense of community we have in a lot of places.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was working with someone earlier on today who has a collection of quite classic cars, and most weeks they take one car to. They have these like car and coffee clubs where people go and drink coffee and share these wonderful old cars that they've got, sort of classic things going back to whenever. And that was quite interesting to me because it was like, that's a car community. I hadn't thought about that one.
Oh yeah, it's huge. Yeah, it's massive. I went to a classic car show just a few weeks ago. It's look, man, I can appreciate the engineering, and I love old cars, and new cars are incredible they're incredible machines. But I mean, to talk about safety as well, a lot of the main reason that people won't let their kids play out now or walk to school on their own is because there's massive, SUVs whooshing around at 40 miles an hour. So there's that extra lack of safety, which is vital for communities, isn't it? So I'll post a link to a little video I watched today on YouTube about like what a typical Japanese suburban area looks like, and they seem to do a really good job of not just kind of taming cars, but also creating spaces that kind of nurture community. There's like a mixed use to a lot of the areas, so you're allowed to open a shop, that kind of thing. And there's schools, there's parks, all within really dense little areas, so that everything happens in the same place rather than just a big area of land for houses, and then a mile away there's a big area of land for all the shops, and then a mile from that is where the school is. It's all kind of on top of each other.
There's a Japanese word which is wa, W-A, which I love, and wa means harmony, but it's personal harmony. So that I have a wa. So if you come and shout at me, you disturb my wa. Yeah. Now that idea of wa as harmony was related to communities. So that if you lived in a village, the village had wa, and if you disturbed the village's wa, you'd actually committed a crime.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So that idea about having those kind of areas that you live in, where your responsibility is to preserve the wa of your neighbours and to look after them, is really important. So in the days when they had, the paper houses with the paper walls, you ever seen the Japanese radios?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And because you could hear the person snoring in the house next door, I guess that whole issue about the law was you must not disturb the wa of your neighbours, which would mean you don't need to argue with people in your house, so that you're going to disturb the wa of the people next door.
Cool.
And I love that because there are times when I've had a rough day, and Ria will say to me, "Are you okay?" I say, "Oh no, my wa's all over the place. My personal harmony is disturbed." And in a good community, we look after everyone's wa, and so we have that harmony between us.
Yeah. So part two of your tips, or kind of like bullet points for what community is about community being a big family. So I wonder what percentage of people view their neighbors as part of their family, and obviously not in terms of like blood relatives, but being part of an extended family that they can rely on for things that they might need help with, or just advice on stuff, or just someone to talk to every now and again. And
that's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because if anyone that's listening to this thinks about the people that are in their road, street, lane, whatever it is, how many of them could they go to if they had a problem? Or how many in there would come to them and say, could you help me? Yeah, because to me, that's a real sign of community. If you know that you could say to someone, help, and they would respond. That's community. That's good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. There's I mean, my kids as well. We've got good friends across the road, so we kind of trust our lads to kind of be able to cross a little, the road on their own, and look both ways and all that kind of stuff. Blah blah blah. Which is quite a big step, really. But it's fine, and giving them that extra little bit of freedom as well. I'm hoping will kind of serve them well later in life. Given that there's probably not many kids at their age now, especially Jacob, who's 6, that are allowed to just kind of leg out the front door and run across the road and go and knock for their mates and come back in a couple of hours when they're done.
Yeah. Whereas when I was a kid on the council estate, you'd go out for the day. You're out there for the day, playing with your friends and whatever, and just having a good time. But no one was worried about oh my God, we're all going to be run over, killed, or abducted or whatever. People just went out and played.
Yeah. I've just, YouTube viewers might have seen me just waving then. So another little example. So our back garden, we've got a gate in the side, and then you can get into a wooded area in the back. And there's a scout hut or a beaver hut in the woods. So on, and our youngest has just started, and so is the lad from across the way. So our neighbour has just let themselves in our back garden and walked through and just gone through the gate. I've just waved to them like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
They don't have to knock to ask. They just know that it's cool. And
yeah, but that's community, isn't it? They know, because that communal communication has gone on.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good. I should organize tours of like podcast listeners and local people that are interested of like where I live. It's like, you all need to come and see this. This is how we should be building houses.
Yeah. And interestingly, there are no cars around your house. No,
sometimes we kind of allow people to bring them up to kind of pack and load up if they're going on holiday, or extra heavy items. But it's very rare that a motor will come up to the front door. Frowned upon.
Brilliant.
Rightly so.
Yeah.
Point 3 in your blog is about exercise. So how come you're highlighting that?
Well, that's your world, isn't it? Because it's like, if you walk from your door to your car, and then you walk from your car to your place of work, and then your place of work to your car, and then your car to home, it's like you don't actually get any exercise and move anything. And the whole idea about using bikes is very real, because you're actually moving your body rather than just sitting down all the time behind the wheel. But the other thing is that the idea of moving your body, getting exercise, most people are going for the 10,000 steps a day. Actually, the original research, as I understand it, said it should be 15,000 steps a day. But most people doing the research said people would never accept that, so it was reduced to 10, which is okay, that's fine. But we know that if you move your body, your brain releases positive endorphins. So it takes about 20 minutes. So say you were walking from your house to the train, saying it was a 20-minute walk, your brain would be releasing positive feel-good endorphins. Amazing. You get off the train the other end and you walk into your workplace, 20 minutes, endorphins, you're feeling really good, your mood's up. If you're in the car, and and there isn't that kind of walking either end, you don't get the buzz. And on a bike, you're going to get it anyway.
You're going to get a big old buzz, guaranteed.
Which is good. No,
it's true. I mean, I talk about bikes a lot, but walking's kind of still the undisputed heavyweight champion of transport. It's massively underrated. You can walk a lot further.
It makes me laugh, because when I was a kid, and now I'm 100 years old, but when I was a kid, nobody had cars. I mean, there are very few cars on the council estate, and most of the men would get on a bike to go to work. They'd cycle to work. There were men that cycled from where we lived on the on the south of the river right into the city. They'd cycle in the morning. It would take them like over an hour to get to work, but they'd do it on the bike, and all weathers, summer, winter, whatever. And no one ever questioned it. It was a bike, a bus, or a train. Yeah, it was only later that people had cars. And then the problem was the streets on the council estate were never designed for cars, so that all the streets were then clogged up then because of the cars. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah,
you got to keep moving.
Back to the Future. Yeah, hopefully that'll be on its way back. I can highly recommend it. And the point 4 is well, cars have an environmental impact, but you talk about the environment of our community and kind of cleanliness as well.
Yeah, and in this area, we have 2 things going on. We have the Morton in Bloom Society. So there's people that are actually going around putting flowers all around our community, so that wherever you go, there's a street sign, there's flowers underneath it. In the middle of the road, on a crossing, there's flowers, and you see people going out and doing it, and it's a thing they do for free because they love it, which is great. But also there's what they call the Wombles. So there's the Wirral Wombles that are out litter picking and getting rid of all the rubbish in the street, making sure the streets are clean. And I got 2 views on that. One is, isn't it amazing that people do that? And that's fabulous, because that's community. But what kind of unbelievable human being just dumps their rubbish? Because they don't feel a part of the community. They just feel that they can dump their stuff. I was in a car park. A guy pulls up in a car, leans out of his door and empties his ashtray full of fag ends and stuff on the car park floor, and then closes his door and drives off. So it's like, I don't want this pollution in my space, but I'm going to throw it on the floor so it's in your space. What kind of mind and emotion does that? That's not community mind. That's like, I, me, mine, sod you kind of attitude, which is horrible. Did you catch in the news that down at Bidston, just down the road from us, that someone had dumped all this rotting food underneath the motorway?
Well,
they reckoned it was like 9 trailers full or something.
Huge industrial scale. I didn't realize it was food waste, but I did see. Yeah, that was horrendous.
It was all rotting stuff.
Yeah, horrible. I mean, massive job to do that.
What kind of person does that? You must really not care about other people to do that. That's just bad.
It was beyond awful, that, and it kind of reveals a kind of a deep sadness that goes to the heart of society, really, doesn't it? Or to that individual especially, and to get to the stage where you think that's an acceptable thing to do. I'm sure I say he, it's probably a he or a she, knows it was an awful thing to do, but it just boggles my mind. We did an interesting little experiment. So 2 years ago, when we first ran our summer cycle event, we forgot to put any bins out. We didn't have it on the list, and it was on the kind of feedback form. Oh, there were no bins to put our stuff in, but the next day we went back and there was no litter anywhere, literally not one scrap. So this time we actually expressly put it in the FAQs about there will be no bins on site. Please take responsibility for your rubbish and take it home. And I went back the next day, kind of like keen to see, and I found one paper napkin, and that was it. Not one other bit of litter. And we had about 600 people on the day, all buying teas and coffees and sandwiches and ice cream and cakes, and one little bit of litter. So again, I've just got this mad theory that like bins create more waste and more litter.
Well, there is some research that shows that if you put a bin in a lay-by, it overflows and the rubbish goes everywhere. Whereas if there's no bin there, people tend not to dump their rubbish.
Yeah.
Which would suggest to me that most people do have a community mind.
Yeah.
It's just that odd person who wants to dump that rubbish under the motorway or empty their ashtray, And
I think maybe because we were the event was in a beautiful part of the world, yeah, people, don't want to spoil that, and so it's that sense of community and cleanliness, even though it's not somewhere where people live or we're going to stay the night or spend more than a couple of hours. It was like, oh, I don't want to leave this place looking horrible. So yeah, it's really cool.
That's good. It's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, very nice. And the last point is about kind of all this being ultimately a natural stress reducer. That's what community is.
Yeah, and when people feel supported and they know they're safe, their anxiety levels drop, so their stress hormones drop, which means there's all kinds of things in that sound quite dramatic when you say it, but it's like levels of mental health disturbance drop, levels of things like cancer drop, because a lot of those things are anxiety and stress related. It's a bit like in agricultural communities in Africa and in bits of Asia, where they have no industrialization and don't have all this wild, isn't it amazing stuff that we have over here. They have very low levels of mental illness and very low levels of things like cancer, relative to what we experience. And I think that whole kind of community, communal, looking after, caring is so amazingly supportive to the person, but it's supportive right down to the cells of your body, because you're relaxed and you're calm. Yeah, as soon as you start to develop stress hormone because you're anxious and worried, it's a bit like I say, when I was a kid, people used to leave their doors open or unlocked. Yeah, and now if you don't lock something down, someone's going to steal it. What's the level of anxiety? It's funny because the other day, or the other night, an alarm went off. Now, I don't know whether it was a house or a car, but the alarm was going off somewhere around here. And it's like, it made me think that in the stillness and the quiet of the night, people have to alarm things because we're so worried about losing stuff, because we've got so much material stuff to hang on to. And it's like, I know the anxiety that comes from all that.
Yeah. I don't know what your security setup is, but I think people have gone a bit too nuts with all that. I mean, we haven't got, I don't want to kind of give away our trade secrets, but we haven't got an alarm on our house. We've got one of those fake boxes things that's been on since we moved in that it doesn't do anything. We've got no alarm systems. We've got no CCTV. We've got a back gate now. For about a year and a half, we didn't even have a back gate because it was disintegrating. The bikes are never locked up. Although my massive, very expensive e-bike does have a GPS tracker on it, and I do lock that in the shed at night. Yes, that one does have a value. But I think recently we went on holiday for 2 weeks to Northumberland and didn't lock the patio door, not like deliberately, but we got home and I realized that the patio door had been open the whole time. So,
if only I'd known.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I do know people that have been burgled a lot of times. It's weird, but and maybe at some point we will, and I'm sure it'll be a harrowing experience because I don't like the idea of someone rooting around our stuff and all that. But yeah, I don't know, man. There's so much security you can do now, isn't there? And like with cameras and alarms on every window and door, it just seems like there's a lack of trust, and that is not a healthy thing,
Yeah. Now we have razor wire, machine gun towers, and searchlights, but apart from that, we're completely cool.
Yeah.
I actually was burgled. It was many years ago when I was in Devon. I came back from playing a gig on Dartmoor. Came back in the early hours of the morning, and when I used to go in the back of the house, and it looked old, and then I realised that they'd gone in through the back door and they'd hit it so hard they'd taken the frame out. The old back door and the frame had gone.
Wow.
And I had a big guitar collection, like 12 guitars or something. They'd all gone. And I had a record collection that went back to 1962. That had all gone. All my stereo equipment had gone, everything. Yeah. And that was quite a shock. That was quite a shock.
That's fine, isn't it? I mean, yeah. Again, I've never had a bike nicked. You know, in the world of cycling, apparently at some point everyone has a bike, has to have their bike stolen, and I've managed to avoid that so far through good fortune. And I've got a lock for my bikes, but I haven't got like multiple systems going on. And I used to have a really crappy old bike that was that bad that it was unstealable because there was just no point, and I used to just leave it unlocked, you know, at the station all day. It would just still be there when I got back.
That's like the ultimate insult, isn't it? Like, no one wants to steal your bike because it's such rubbish.
I do have a nice one now, and I do lock it up quite well. But yeah.
I've got a secure lock on mine when I'm out.
Anyway, all right, we'll finish things up now. But I mean, yeah, well, what's your resource of the week, and what are your final kind of tips on? People might be listening thinking that they don't live in a healthy community, or there's things that they can do to change it. Is it about getting stuck in and changing things yourself?
Yeah, but it's down to who do you know in your road. You know, go and say hello to people, get to know them. It's like community is about communication. It's the same word. You know, community, communal, communication, and it's that safety, sharing, belonging, and identifying. Yeah. Now I've put up my resource is about how to create your own community. It's called Disciple, but it's an app. And the reason I put it up is because lots of communities that are being developed and are being developed online. And although I'm saying we really need to create physical communities and regenerate physical communities, because people are creating community online, you need to do it in the right way if you're going to do it. And it's a good kind of resource that to look, if you're going to create an online community, how do you do it? No.
Cool.
Because it's going to go that way more and more, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And you know, it's, I mean, I've met some just through Twitter mainly. I've met some really awesome folks in the world of kind of like cycling advocacy that I feel like I know really well, and there's quite a good community there that I can. So yeah, you know, I'm lucky really that I've got this kind of brilliant neighborhood set up, but also online as well. So wherever I turn, there's people that I can, you know, rely on.
Yeah. And that's the important thing, is the relying, isn't it?
Yeah. All right. I'll link to that video about the Japanese community set up. That is really interesting. Actually, lots to learn there about why design our towns and cities and that kind of thing. Yeah. All right. Cool. Sean, you happy? Okay.
I am happy. I will see you next week.
Yeah. Okay, mate. You take it easy.
Take care.
See you, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye.